peace, balance, tranquility, and throwing all of that out the window for 4 days to make a video game. The Gamemaker's Toolkit Game Jam has returned again. It's almost like they do that every year. I made a game, and just like every other time I do a game jam, it was a roller coaster. This theme is awesome. My game's gonna be amazing. I mean, the prototype doesn't really work, but I can't start over now. Wait, the game design sucks. I give up. It's not worth it. On the Jerbob channel, we finish our games. But I somehow managed to pull through and finish my game as a solo developer in less than 4 days. From initial idea to finished product, the game changed a lot. So stick around to witness the riveting journey of the Gamemaker's Toolkit Game Jam 2024. Alright, at this point you know the drill. A game jam is an opportunity to flex your game making skills by joining a competition. You have a set time frame and you have to make your game based around a theme. That's awesome because it gives you an opportunity to make super wacky creative games that you never would have been able to think of otherwise. For example, a few years back I made a game about a frog chef who makes soup. I definitely would not have thought of that without a theme. Now there's lots of different game jams, but the biggest one that happens every year is the GMTK game jam. Every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Last year I actually missed the game jam, so I was super excited to give this one a shot. Now I've been working every day to improve my skills with Blender and Godot to try and learn how to make video games in 3D. I'll be making a video about that in a little bit, but for the purpose of the jam, I had to make a game fast. Especially as a solo game developer doing all of the work, stuff piles up really quickly. So I ended up using Construct to make this game. It's really good for quickly getting 2D concepts working. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to do a game jam in Godot or Unreal Engine or something like that. Every game jam starts with an exciting theme reveal, so I hopped onto the YouTube premiere and the theme was
built to scale.
In my brainstorming phase, I really only had one idea. I'm thinking through it and I keep coming back to an idea I had a while ago where you play as like a fly exterminator, but you can like change your size, and as you change your size, the time changes as well. It makes no sense explaining it like that, but I feel like that could apply really well to this theme. It's an idea that I had a while ago actually. Now I don't know if anyone remembers the movie Epic, but basically there's this character that gets shrunk down and discovers a secret civilization of little people living in the woods. One of the ideas is that when she's small, the big people, or just the regular sized people, are way slower. And that's why flies seem so fast from our perspective, because to them, we're just really slow giants. Don't fact check me on the science there, I don't know if that's true. So the idea that I had was a game where you play as a bug exterminator, but you're really small and you kind of shift between sizes. I thought it'd be pretty funny to have a little dude jumping around from bug to bug with swords and gliders and stuff like that. Obviously I had to adapt that to be the size of a game jam game. So I simplified the idea to be a 2D platformer where you shift between large and small, and as your size changes, the speed around you changes as well. So that was the idea, and I got prototyping as fast as I could. The early prototype worked pretty good. I got the main mechanic of shrinking and growing working. But honestly, I couldn't think of any good puzzles or anything about time. And that was what I was really struggling with. I kind of thought that when I finished the prototype, ideas for puzzles would just kind of start flowing to me like they usually do, but this time there's nothing. Now, it's really important to qualify your game idea with a prototype as soon as you can, so that if it's not a good idea, you can just back out and make a new game. In full honesty, I should have just restarted as soon as I realized that the main mechanic of the game didn't really work as expected, but I have a confession to make. I might have just decided to start on game art instead. I know, but this is like my Achilles heel. What am I supposed to just look at a bunch of little boxes jumping around? No, I need some colorful art, a little fella jumping around. Maybe if I make a bunch of art, the game design will fix itself. Yep. That's exactly what I did. So I animated a little dude for the player, which instead of fixing the game just made it twice as buggy. I also started having this super weird bug where the screen would flip upside down every time the character turned around. I could not figure out why it was happening. Bugs like that are super annoying, especially for game jams where time is super important. It was almost impossible to make progress without fixing this bug, but it took me like 2 hours to figure out what was even causing it. The problem was that I was scaling the layout size based on the player's width, and when the player would turn around, his width would actually technically go negative because I was mirroring him. And so the layout size was getting scaled to a negative number, which was just causing it to flip upside down. Kind of weird. So I just had to change that to an absolute value, and everything started working perfectly fine. After finishing all the animations for the player and a couple other key objects, things were kind of starting to come together. Alright, it is Saturday, about 3:27 p.m. We have the core gameplay loop in here. It's not great. I mean, it like looks alright because I've got all the animations done. The loop is there. You can see the fly. Got all these platforms that move and stuff. You can scale, you can get bigger and smaller, and at the end, you can slap them. So I've got the main mechanics there, but needs a lot of polish, and I also need actual game. I actually ended up just cutting out the entire time, like speed mechanic of the game because it was kind of hindering everything else. I decided to make the main mechanic that when you're small you can interact with the bugs, whereas when you're big you can't do that. I honestly didn't love this idea as much, and I wasn't really happy with the game as it stood. Now luckily this game jam was extended. Usually for the GMTK game jam he gives you 48 hours to complete a game. There was still an option to do 48 hours, but I decided to do the full 4-day challenge, which gave me more time to take breaks and also spend time with family because I had a lot of family over this weekend. I'm still trying to figure out a good way to balance game dev with life. It's honestly really challenging because game dev is something that I could do for hours on end and not even realize that any time has gone by. That can actually be super dangerous because you kind of forget to do things like eat and sleep. I'm still trying to figure out that balance. Now don't get me wrong, I still had to grind to get this game done in time, but it was really nice to have a little bit of extra time. Thank you, Mark. There was a time that I seriously considered just giving up and dropping the game because I just wasn't liking it. I figured there were better things I could be doing and I thought maybe I should just stop. But on the Jerbob channel, we finish games. If you too are a game finisher, make sure to click the subscribe button for more content in which we finish our games. Yeah! I do think there's something to say for just finishing a game. Obviously, it's better if the initial design is good so that the game's not trash, but sometimes you just have to trust the process. I feel like no matter how good your game is, you're gonna go through a period of time where you just absolutely hate it. When I got burnt out from working on my game, I decided to work on easy tasks that didn't take that much time to finish. That actually ended up being a pretty good thing because I didn't wait till the very end to do all of the sound effects like I usually do. I even scored a soundtrack for the game because I was procrastinating level design so much. Slowly but steadily, the art and the sound design and the levels started coming together, and I was able to make the gameplay not horrible. Adding sound effects turned out to be pretty funny as per usual. Free sounds strikes again. I love finding good sounds on free sounds for death. Here's another good one. After finally designing a couple more levels, I decided to just get the menu stuff out of the way and leave it at that. I also got some playtesting done, which is really helpful. Even just watching someone play your game helps you realize where something needs to be improved. After playtesting, I realized I needed to make the game way less punishing. Pro tip, having a hard game jam game is never a good idea because no one's going to make it past the first level. I ended up adding extra platforms so the player didn't like fall all the way down. I'm not trying to make the next getting over it. Honestly, everything kind of came together in the end. The game's not too bad. I like how the art style looks and the idea is pretty cool. I do really want to branch out in the future for game jams. I think making puzzle platformers is my default because it's what I'm most familiar with. Going forward, I want to push myself to try something new during game jams. That's kind of the whole point. I also want to join more teams. Being a solo dev is super tough sometimes. So maybe while I'm working on my programming skills, I can join other teams as an artist or something. Here's a summary of the game. If you don't want any spoilers, you can play the game and the link in the description and then come right back to see my analysis. This is us in The Fly Guy. You play as this lovely fella, the Fly Guy, and this grandma lady needs some help exterminating some flies. But the grandma will give you a little bit of commentary to help you understand the backstory, which is not much. So basically her husband is like a scientist dude and just builds machines. Somehow he just managed to build a shrink ray and it's in his house, so that makes sense. So the shrink ray will take you down to a small dude. I think we need to take some time to just appreciate the foot slapping sound effect. So you can kind of interact with these bugs when you're small, and then you can size back up at the end and take them down. And the puzzles get a little bit more complicated, mostly with platforming. A little bit of platforming action here. Shout out to Roblox obby enjoyers. Oh, you can tell I haven't played very many Roblox obbies. I'm not very good at my own game. Sometimes the main puzzle mechanic is that you can't make a jump when you're small, like these ones. You have to be big to be able to make those jumps. And then here we've got this little fly that's trapped above a door, so you have to be big to take down this button, but then you have to be small to take the fly up to the next platform. But the puzzles get a little bit more complicated as you go. So it turned out pretty good. I like the style overall. The puzzles turned out to be pretty fun. The platforming's fun. So overall, I give it 2 thumbs up. Game jams are awesome. It's just cool to feel like you're part of a community of people who are all working towards one common goal. Even though it's technically a competition, everyone is united through mutual suffering. I used to run cross country and I realized that doing a game jam actually feels really similar. While you're doing it, you're like, there's no way I'm gonna ever do this again. This sucks. But once it's finished, you feel so good and you just want to do it again because of all the things you learned. It's also super rewarding to just finish a game, no matter how janky it is. So congratulations to everyone who did manage to finish a game during this game jam. It's such a huge accomplishment. Maybe the real prize was the friends we made along the way. Which for me was nobody, because I did it alone.